Here's an exercise demonstration video for the push-up. We'll cover a couple of different variations so that you can do the one that's most appropriate for you right now. Remember, it's the challenge that brings the change, so you do want to push your efforts a little bit in order to make a difference. But it's important to make sure that we keep proper technique so that our efforts don't result in pain, discomfort, or to the detriment of our joints. As we talk about the push-ups and as we go through today, a couple of things will be important. Number one, remember that the push-up is a core exercise first and foremost. So don't neglect to feel that contraction in your abs and your glutes so that you brace your entire spine, front and back. On purpose, we want to recruit as many muscles as possible and contract them as tightly as possible so that we have that stimulus to make a difference. Of course, our body operates more effectively when we have the full body muscular connection, but it's definitely something that takes time to develop. So as you work on this, understand that you might go for a long time on your push-ups before you suddenly feel things click or snap into place. And that's just the path of development. When we talk push-ups today, keep in mind that it's core, and then number two, focus on the movement or the lack of movement in your shoulder blades. I'll talk about that more later, but it's important for us to be aware and have that muscle contraction through the front and back of the upper chest and shoulders. Let me show you the full range of motion, standard push-up, and then we'll talk about some scaling opportunities, how and when you can use those. So to start things off, in your push-up position, I actually like to start at the bottom if possible. And this gives a good example of our body position. If I'm ready for my push-up right here, laying down on my chest and stomach, a couple things for you to notice. My feet are together, toes and heels close together, inner thighs are actually squeezing right now, pushing against each other. So there's this tone and contraction in the entirety of my lower body. Abs are braced, low back will be tight, and my shoulder blades are already squeezed together a little bit. I don't want my shoulders to be close to the floor right here. I want this activation in my upper back to hold my shoulder blades in the proper place while we're creating that movement of the push-up. And finally, head and neck position is huge in the push-up. So I'm just looking at the floor with my nose pointed straight down. I'm not looking at the wall, and I don't want to droop my head down. Like I said, it can be easy to set these up at the bottom of the push-up because the floor mandates the straight alignment and gives us an idea to keep our head in the right place. It can be hard to push your way up out of this position, but if you can do it, get that core set, get the head and neck aligned, and then drive your body straight up. And I want to show you something here in this plank position. When we're in the top of the push-up, we're entered into that plank, and we should see that we have a tight line from the shoulder to the hip, and then a straight line from the hip down to the floor. When we're doing this, most people think about the plank and the push-up with their body more in a straight alignment from the shoulder all the way to the heel. And this puts a sway or a curve into the low back. If we come up right here, the hips a little higher, we allow ourselves to get the abs and the glutes braced really tightly and to keep the spine in a nice straight line. I'm going to flip over here just to give you a reference on this one. Most people think about their plank like this, with a straight line from the shoulder all the way to the heel, and then their hands on the floor. So just imagine we flip that position over. Ideally, what we actually have is a straight line from the shoulder to the hip, and then a slight angle, and a straight line from the hip to the ankle. This allows us to brace the abs and to squeeze the glutes really tightly, and this will be where we want to live for our push-ups. However, like I said, most people have this straight line all the way through. Let's turn this over again, 180 degrees. Straight line position would look like this, can be actually detrimental to the low back. Proper push-up or a powerful push-up is going to be right here. Notice I've put my hips up a little bit higher. This is going to be our place to live for that really excellent, super tight push-up. As you're doing this movement, we want to make sure that we keep that tone in the upper back so we're not taking a position that looks like this. If our upper back is all curved and rounded, like I'm demonstrating now, our shoulders are just not in the proper position to do a good movement. We need to get a little bit of organization in the upper back before we do that motion. Let me show you up close what that looks like. If I was ready to do a push-up against the wall, I'd want to make sure my shoulder blades were a little bit pinched back together right here, while I do that motion. We don't want to be all the way to the front. We don't want to be fully retracted because then we run into our joint anatomy. We want to be in between the two, keeping that organization so that the shoulder blade is safe and the upper arm is doing the movement to create that push-up. All right, hope this was helpful.